Hello, this is Myra Elaine from the Buying Space channel. Today, I'm reading from Proverbs chapter 11. This morning, in my adult Bible studies, I read John 11. So it's a 11:11 day. And my father used to love the numbers 11:11 quite frequently. Later in life, when he looked at the clock, usually at 11:11 or at 9:11. And he took note of that and he shared his thoughts about that with us. And I miss my father a great deal. He probably would be very distraught about what's happening in the world right now. He was distraught about what's happening in life and in the world when he was alive. And a lot more has happened since then. But for those of you that don't know, I'm now doing my Proverbs reading Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. I'm still doing the adult Bible studies at 8 a.m. on Sundays. And on Saturday at 8 a.m. is when I'm doing my Torah reading. So the Saturday is Shabbat to the Jews. And I think my audience is more Messianic Jews and Christians that are curious about learning about the Torah. But the time frame from the East Coast of the United States to Israel is 7. So if I do a Torah reading at 5 p.m., it's the middle of the night in Israel. If I do a Torah reading at 8 a.m., it's the middle of the afternoon for those in Israel and Europe. And anyone in between that maybe would want to listen to a Torah reading. So I'm widening my audience, hopefully, by moving that to a morning time frame. And it's pre-recorded. It's not like it's a live. But I think, I might be able to reach more people that way. And on Wednesday at 5, I have a Bible study where I'm reading through the 4 Gospels about the life of Christ. I am in John in that reading. So that will be concluded soon, and we'll see what I do after that. But let's get to Proverbs 11. The Lord detests the use of dishonest scales, but he delights in accurate weights. Now, a lot of this chapter is going to focus on money and business. And what does it mean by the use of dishonest scales? Well, we don't have neighborhood butchers that much anymore, but we do have deli departments in the grocery stores. And some butchers shops in the past have been known to put their thumb on the corner of that scale. Like the customer's over here, the meat's on the scale, and they're putting their thumb on it and pressing down a little to make the weight go higher, to charge their customer more. And it's a very dishonest thing to do. But in business in general, you need to have integrity. If you cheat people, it will come back on you. If you cheat the postal service, it'll come back on you. So please don't cheat anyone. Be honest. I went to a car repair shop one time, and I forget what was originally wrong with the car that I took it to the shop, but the guy put the car up on the lift, and he said, "See that leaking? You need a timing belt." Now, I didn't need a timing belt. My timing belt had been changed like 8 months earlier. And what was really wrong is the side tank for the coolant had gotten so hot that it had melted and developed a small leak. And that's what was leaking out my side tank for my antifreeze or coolant. And the thing was, that car was like 10 years old. It had a list of things that were wrong with it. But here I come in, I think it was like a $70 to $120 repair. And that gentleman could have made a lot of money off of me repairing what was needed. But instead of me, and I didn't take the full list because I'd never done business with him before. He made this fake $1,100 job, and that's what it was then. God knows what it costs now. But he lost all my business. Also, I had this lady, I had 5 packages returned. I believe it was in 2022, the spring of 2022. They went to a forwarding desk, and then they were all returned within 6 months to 18 months. They staggered when they returned them, which showed intent, by the way. But anyway, so 2 of the people worked it out with me and resent the packages. 2 people never contacted me and just kept them. And 1 person contacted me, but informed me that she was just going to keep it and give me a credit. And then she never gave me a credit. Now, after that was about the middle of the 4 years or 4.5 years that I bought from YouTube online auctions. I was spending $300 to $400 a month. So I didn't make it public what this woman had done. I was discreet and kept it between the 2 of us. But I never bought from her again. In that 2.5 years, I probably spent $10,000 easily. Now, I wouldn't have spent it all with her, but she did have some things that I liked. And I probably would have spent some of it with her. But because when she got that item back and she saw what I originally paid for it, and it was a really good deal, and the item was worth probably 5 times the amount of the bid that she accepted from me, she decided to keep it. So because of that, I never bought from her again. So I don't know. I did no harm, but I didn't help. A lot of times in life, you can do that. Instead of, somebody comes and they have an attitude towards me, I just back away. So people lose my time, efforts, energy, money, help that people give each other on YouTube. All of those things are lost that could have potentially happened, but I'm not obligated to do those things. So I just step back. I do no harm, but I step back. So you lose, with anyone with common sense usually does that. If you go to a store and over you have issues, you don't go to that store anymore. Depending upon the place it is, it's more or less complicated than that. But sometimes you have people in your life that are family, and you're kind of obligated. My extended family is kind of funny because, for instance, I sent a copy of a video, a link to one of my videos to one of my cousins. And I asked her a question about the video. And she didn't realize the lady in the video was me. Because we hadn't been in each other's physical presence for over 5 years. And when we were in each other's physical presence, that prior 5 years, we were in the physical presence of probably 40 other people. So, there wasn't time to specifically pay that much attention to anyone. But anyway, so she responds to me and she says she agrees with the lady in the video. And I realized she thought that I was debating this woman in the video. And so it just came to my attention. It hit me like a ton of bricks at that point in time that the majority of my extended family and friends of the family from when I was younger all were trained to think that I was wrong. Now, how did that come about? That came about because I had someone major in my life that was a narcissist who loved attention, and what they would do is if they wanted something, they would just say that I wouldn't do it, or I did it and I did it wrong, or I did it with bad attitude. They would criticize me, and it would make other people feel sorry for them. So people would come running to help that person in my family that did that. That just constantly threw me under the bus to get what they wanted from other people. They found out that it worked well. Whether this was a conscious or subconscious thing, I don't know. We'll leave that to the experts. But that's what happened. So now, as an adult, that's been imprinted upon a lot of people that I grew up with. Now, as a child, I didn't know how to deal with that. What child would? But God doesn't like dishonesty. If you're being dishonest to another person about how another person's treating you to garner sympathy, that's just as much an evil or a falsehood as the butcher putting his thumb on the scales to make more money. So there are many, many ways that we can be dishonest and put our thumb on that scale to our favor. And manipulating others, even if it's not for money, if it's for attention or social status, that's also evil. Let's go to verse 2. Pride leads to disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. I was on this lady's channel the other day, and she was just like, oh, we don't do that thing where, somebody gets to point to mistakes I make. If I drop something on the floor, I'll say, oh, I dropped something on the floor, and it's no big deal. But if you set yourself up as a person that never makes mistakes, and you make all these additional rules that you make everybody else live by, you find out you have to live by them. And also, if you do make a mistake, and everybody does, and you're the kind of person that doesn't say, I'm sorry, or admit I made a mistake, because I make all kinds of mistakes. I'll be honest with you about it, and I'll apologize. Now, if the person doesn't accept the apology, that's kind of on them. I was friends with these two guys, and they weren't gay or anything, but they definitely had the bromance going on as far as watching out for each other. They really watched out for each other. And if anybody said anything that could have been perceived in any way as a slight towards the other one would make up for it, would repair it, and make sure people understood that what was being said wasn't the extreme, or if they were saying what was the extreme, that it was wrong. Just immediately self-defended each other like they would themselves. And that was a beautiful thing. Those guys loved each other in a brotherly way. Honest guides good people. Dishonesty destroys treacherous people. So eventually, people will find out whether you're honest or not. My life, I've been honest to a fault. I had a guy friend in college who was like, Myra, you really need to get over that honesty thing. And I'm like, nope, never going to do it. Because he looked at it, because we were in college, we wanted to be upwardly mobile. He was thinking about his career, his future family, and considering me as a potential future wife. And he decided I was too honest. I was out at dinner one night with a former boss. And at the time, I was studying criminal justice at this community college. I went on to study criminology at a state college and graduated. I have a Bachelor of Arts in criminology, and I was applying for a position, the police department. He's like, "You're too honest to be a police officer." And I know for a fact now, looking back, I probably knew this decades ago. It's easier for me to admit it now. He was absolutely correct. The cops lie continuously. I mean, they do it for a purpose. They do it to catch the quote unquote bad guys or whoever they think are the bad guys in this day and age. But they will lie to you straight up, make up the biggest tales you've ever heard. And I'm just not made that way. He was absolutely right. I was too honest to be a cop. And I didn't see it. I wasted a lot of time not seeing that. I ended up doing my field service training as a probation officer, and that was a better fit for me. But I ended up not working in the field because if you are in a situation where you're surrounded by people that are dishonest, even if they're dishonest for a noble cause or a good purpose, you are at a disadvantage. I met a school teacher one time. I did my graduate studies in special education, focusing on autism. And I spent an afternoon in a classroom filled with autistic children, or children with autism is the way you say it. Not autistic children, but children with autism is how that's said. And this teacher, her students were lower on the spectrum than Marty. They didn't have Asperger's syndrome or higher, they weren't higher on the spectrum. Many of them were nonverbal, so she used a lot of sign language, the finger over the mouth for quiet, and she had several other signs. But she directed those kids not in a drill sergeant type way, maybe the same words, but not without the yelling. It was just like, not sit down, please, sit down. And she would, do the jab thing, like, and then it was over. And they would do the task or follow the directions, or they weren't. And then she would go from there. But it was a lot of physical directions, a lot of direct orders. And so when I was leaving, we were in the stairwell talking about what my curriculum was with my class and, what I felt about what happened in her class. And she continued to use those techniques with me. And I looked at her, I said, "Do you do that to your husband?" And she laughed and she's like, "Yeah." I mean, I didn't even say what it was. She knew that she was directing me that way. And she said, "Yeah, it's kind of become a thing." So I've noticed a lot of school teachers, when they're in the classroom, they're the boss. But when they go out into the world at church or, college classes, get a classroom full where the students are all teachers. Oh my gosh, the chaos and the egos. Oh my Lord. But anyway, so you have to know what's the appropriate environment. God's telling us dishonesty is not appropriate anywhere. So if you have a job that requires dishonesty, you have a problem. But if you have a job where you're a teacher and you're the boss in that class, you need to check yourself when you walk out that door, because you're not the boss at the grocery store. All those other people in the grocery store do not have to follow your directions. All those people that you go to church with or in a life group with or, have a college class with, they don't have to follow your directions. So there are certain things where you can separate out your behavior. Some people do it well, some people don't. But in either case, your integrity, your honesty will make your life miserable. If you make all these rules for all these other people that don't have to be under your thumb, then you're going to lose relationships. You're going to lose business. Once people figure out that threw somebody under the bus for a certain purpose, they're going to think, well, I might be the next person thrown under the bus. And eventually, people will figure that out. They'll remember the example of the person they threw under the bus. And then the next time they do it, it'll become more recognizable. And eventually, people will figure out what your game is if you're a dishonest, lecherous person that uses people through dishonesty and whatever means you can, because you don't worship God, really. You're worshiping the almighty dollar. And that's the case with so many people these days. They don't care. They'll tell you they care. And love is the way. And we're better together. But then they'll throw somebody under the bus. And when they do that, you need to pay close attention, because you might be next. And that's how that goes. And I'm going to stop there. I've enjoyed 11:11 Sunday. I've read the full chapter of John 11 this morning, but I'm not going to read the full chapter of Proverbs, because each of these verses are kind of standalone. From chapter 10 to 22 in Proverbs, the chapters are that way. They're somewhat themed. And we'll continue to talk about money next week. Not on Monday, on Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you next week.